Welcome aboard, everybody. It is another episode of Let There Be Talk. It is Monday, April, what is it, the 27th, day 4,215 of the lockdown. Here we are in the hut, hiding from the blazing sun that has been beating down on Los Angeles the last 4 days, cooking in over 90 degrees each day. Damn it. Burn up that virus, son. Burn it up. Scorch that fucking shit. Anyway, welcome aboard, guys. Glad you're here. I know you guys remember a few months ago when I had the legend Brad Whitford on, Mr. Aerosmith riff king himself, Mr. Last Child. And I've got to tell you, and I think I did tell you on the episode, 100% the reason I got Brad on the show was because of my guest today, Mr. Greg Howard, who is a guitar tech of the stars. He's been working with Brad Whitford for over 20 years. He's also worked with AC/DC, Stevie Young, to be precise. He's worked with Green Day, King's X, Dig. He also worked with the Black Crowes when they were out with Jimmy Page. So amazing stories just for that alone. I love having people behind the scenes. Guitar tech, very cool to hear that gig and how you get into it. Last time I had somebody that was behind the scenes was the sound man for Aerosmith, and that was like 6 years ago, I believe, Mr. Nightbob, which was a huge episode. Unexpected. People were like, oh my God, I love hearing those stories. So, man, are you going to love this story? Greg Howard, not only is he a guitar tech, this is a 2-for-1 combo, people. You're getting a handmade episode today because this man also makes amazing boutique guitar amps. Him, Brad, and another guy are partners in a boutique amp company called Three Monkeys. And if you've seen Aerosmith over the years, you've seen Brad using this head. Very cool stuff. They also make these incredible solderless cables for your stomp boxes. All kinds of cool shit on today's episode. Man, really, really cool stuff. And once again, I got to tell you, I've met some techs over my lifetime, and some of them were dicks. You meet a tech, they have like a bigger ego than the person they're working for, which is hilarious. I've met guitar techs that thought they were the guy. It's like, come on, dude. What are you doing? So, Greg is 100% the opposite of that. This guy he's the treatment that he gave me a few months ago at the Aerosmith show was just beyond next level. And I'm really bummed. I was looking forward to catching a couple more of those shows at the Vegas residency before the whole planet came to a screeching halt. Heidi, the landlord, and I were plotting out some dates to go. And then, of course, I was really looking forward to flying to Europe and watching my boys' rival sons open up for Aerosmith on the European tour. So, man, this is it is a bummer. But I do think we will get back to normal one day, hopefully. I don't know what the new normal will be until there is a vaccine. But we will see. Each day I just kind of wake up, try to stay positive, and then take it in, man. Like, take it fucking in. Like, what is this? Anyway, I've got I got a great sponsor today. This thing is, this whole episode is all handmade, and then my sponsor is handmade also. The Knoob. My boy Randy has come up with the incredible thing called the Knoob. If you play guitar or bass and you're always losing your picks, everybody does that. You're like, where the hell are my picks? They're at the same spot as socks, wherever those go. And you're always looking for a pick. You're losing picks. You got to dig in your pocket. You got to go out to your car and the change in the ashtray. Oh, there's a pick. My man has invented this thing called the Knoob. And this is what it is. Basically, it is a holder for your picks that mounts behind your strap so no one knows it's there. No more taping picks on your guitar or, busting a solo and you drop your pick and then you got to go back to the mic stand where they're taped on there. No, this is hidden in this incredible holder, the Knoob, right behind your guitar strap. No one knows it's there. It's awesome. Sure, it's simple, but the developers have taken 24 revisions and design enhancements to make sure this thing is perfect. They sweated the details like gap tolerance and texture, everything to make this thing perfect. Hold your guitar picks right behind your strap, and my man is offering some special deals for you guys. Go to Get the Knoob now. That is Knoob. And you're going to go to the website www.getnoob.com or swing by their Facebook or their Instagram and pick up one of these badass things. I've been using it. It's perfect. I just know where my picks are at all time. No more losing picks. Get the Knoob. Getnoob.com. GetKnoob.com. Free shipping in the continental U.S. Take advantage of that and get yourself the Knoob and support Randy. And this is a great, great, great thing to have. If you're a guitar player, you lose your picks. So get it. Tell him I sent you. Follow him on Instagram and Facebook. Getnoob.com. Okay. Before we get into Greg Howard's episode here, I just want to give a shout out to all the new Patreoners. I have 72 bonus episodes up right now on patreon.com/Dean Del Rey. And I'm very, very happy with the results and the feedback that I've been getting from a lot of people, which is very cool, man. People are like, dude, I love the solo episodes, which makes me feel good in case I can never get guests again, Anyway, here we go. Alpha Batalica, thank you for your donation. Matthew James, kicking up his donation. He popped it up. He put up some extra paper. Ryan Nolan in the house. Josh McGee. Rick Shanley. OU821. Justin Progden. Daniel Mischief. Philip Hansen. What is up, buddy? And the episode is dedicated to my man, Chad Pollock. Right there. All you guys kick ass. Thank you, Philip. Thank you, everybody. Daniel, all you guys. And don't forget, there are 72 bonus episodes. All right. I love all you guys. Let's get into it. Don't forget about getnoob.com, people. This is a great episode. We get into some cool shit. We're talking amps. We talk Aerosmith. We talk Jimmy Page. We even talk Brian the Bootmaker. My man Brian the Bootmaker. And we talk some denim. We go all over the place. Let's welcome aboard right now Mr. Three Monkeys himself, Greg Howard. All right, welcome to another episode of Let There Be Talk, coming to you from Las Vegas, Nevada. Fantastic guest today. Introduce yourself.
Greg Howard from Three Monkeys Amps, Three Monkeys Solderless, and also guitar tech for Brad Whitford of Aerosmith.
Man, I just spent the day with you, and you gave me one of the most spectacular tours and fucking next level treatment. I got to thank you for that.
You're welcome.
It was
a pleasure.
unbelievable. I was on the stage. I saw every guitar that Brad had and Joe Perry. I saw the amps, everything, and then watched the show. And it was a pretty fucking special night, man. Thank you so much.
Welcome.
We've been
You're
trying to get together for a while now, and this is a great surprise because I had no idea that you were partners on these amps.
Right.
With Brad and who else? There's a third guy?
And the third monkey is Ossie Ahsen, and he was behind Blockhead amps.
Oh, yeah, Blockhead,
for
that's
years.
right.
And
I remember that.
And then we started Three Monkeys amps in 2000. Started doing basically R&D in 2007. Came out with the first amp in 2008.
Now, was that out of Brad Whitford? I'll let you guys know from Aerosmith. Was that out of Brad looking for another sound? Because it's funny when you look at a lot, like, say, Black Crowes, Aerosmith. There's a few bands out there that tour with like 20 guitars. And it's exciting for me because it's different amps every tour. You're like, oh, shit, now they're using this, now they're using that. And the Stones did that a lot also. Was that out of Brad coming to you and saying, I'm kind of bored with what's out there, let's put something together? Or how does this happen?
So kind of close, but it actually came from me. So I started working with Brad in 2002. And
you've been there 20 years.
Yeah, it's nearly 20 years now. And so he was basically playing some Marshalls, and it was all I basically came in and just set up what he had, like the tour before. It was like a high watt and a Marshall, and then
vintage.
Not too vintage, you know. Mostly it was pretty. I think it was like a JCM 2000.
Oh, wow.
You know, like it was a pretty new Marshall.
Yeah.
But he had tons of vintage shit, and so I started kind of combing through it, and we, you know, once I got to know him, I kind of, you know, and knowing what he wants to sound like, you know, then we started really like looking for stuff, and then in 2003 we did that Honkin' on Bobo record at the Boneyard, which is Joe Perry's studio at his house.
Is that in Boston?
Outside Boston,
right.
South Shore. And so I was like, basically we were using like those guys, like kind of the secret weapon in the studio is like a Super Champ, Fender Super Champ from the Paul Rivera era, in the early 80s. And
that's the amps
Fender.
In the studios?
Yeah. So we used that. We used, I used an amp by Greg Germino, who's another Marshall builder from North Carolina. He lives about half hour from me. And then I found these Blockhead amps, and they were doing, Ossie was doing this 18-watt Marshall, which nobody was really doing. And they've never really made it to the U.S. There was tons of them in the U.K., but not a lot of them in the U.S., and they were basically a 112 EL84 combo.
I remember the Blockheads because they looked like a Plexi.
With tremolo, yeah.
The heads looked just like a vintage Plexi, and they were beautiful.
Yeah, so I called him up and was like, hey, man, I got to get one of these amps. And, you know, I think he kind of thought that I was, you know, maybe a little shady. So he was like, man, can you fax me something on your, like, Aerosmith letterhead or something? So I like faxed him this stuff because he wanted to know I was legit.
Yeah,
so it was so
ago.
funny.
Yeah.
And but so he figured out I was legit. So he built these amps, and then he lived in outside New York City, in Putnam Valley. So he was like, he drove the amps up to Boston and met me at the warehouse on like a day off, and we, you know, he and I just kind of hit it off, and we hung out, and we ended up using them on the record. And then fast forward to after the record, we're getting ready to go out on tour, and he brought me another Blockhead head up, and also I was looking for like something that was like a Blackface Deluxe, because we kind of used one of those in the studio too.
Great.
So I was kind of looking for that kind
Deluxe reverb?
Deluxe reverb, Blackface Deluxe reverb. I was kind of looking for that, but I wanted something that was more roadworthy. So I started asking around, and Lyle Workman, who I'm a big fan of, is, you know, played with Jellyfish and, you know, does all the soundtrack shit, you know. I just happened to get in contact with him, and he goes, you got to check out Divided by 13.
The best. I love it.
So I got in touch with Fred Tacone, and I said, you know, I called him up. I said who I was, and he's like, really? And I'm like, yeah. He goes, man, the first song I ever learned to play was Mama Ken.
Wow.
So he's like, oh, and all I ever ask when I for gear is like, can you send us something to check out? If we dig it, we'll fucking pay for it.
Yeah.
You know, if you want to give it to us, that's your deal. But, you know, anyway, long story short, I got all these kind of boutique amps kind of before the boutique amp thing really blew up.
Yeah, I was way into it myself.
You know, so this is, 2002, 2003. So there was only a few companies, but I got a couple of these boutique amps. We take them out on tour. And then towards the end of that tour, Ossie calls me up and he's like, I have this concept for an amp for Brad. He goes, I'll build it for, and it's not going to cost you anything. I'll just, if you don't mind, can I build it and bring it to you? I'm like, fuck yeah. What am I going to say? No.
Yeah.
So he brings us this amp and it's just a chassis mounted on a piece of plywood with like some rubber feet on it. Like no cabinet, no nothing.
Oh, yeah, yeah.
So we put it up. Brad comes in and plays it because the band doesn't normally sound check, but he comes in before the show and he plays it and he goes, this fucking sounds great. I'm going to use it for the show.
Hey, how good is this episode, huh? Anyway, before I go any further, I want to give you guys something special right here. Here is a great deal for all the Del Raisers. Visit BlueChew.com, BlueChew.com, and get your first order free when you use the promo code DELRAY, DELRAY. Just pay $5 shipping, and that is it. BlueChew.com. Promo code is DELRAY. You know you like sex. You're all locked up at home right now. Maybe you got a little performance anxiety. Maybe a little help is needed. You're going to love BlueChew.com. It offers men performance enhancement in the bedroom or the couch or maybe the bathroom or the shower, wherever. At BlueChew.com, you can get the first chewables with the active ingredients that is found in Viagra and Cialis. This is the same stuff. BlueChew.com affiliated physicians work with you to find the dosage and active ingredients that is best for you. Chewables can work faster. Come on, you want that shiny boner. The chewables from Blue Chew can be taken on a full or empty stomach. Online physicians consult you free, and it's cheaper than Viagra and Cialis. It only takes a few minutes to connect with BlueChew.com, and then they talk to you a little bit. They find out what's going to be the right dosage for you. No in-person doctor visits, none of that awkward stuff, no weird stuff. Ships directly to your door in a discreet package so no one knows about your shiny boner. The chewables from BlueChew.com, made in the USA. That's right, USA made. Blue Chew gives you confidence in the bedroom or the shower or the couch, wherever you're at with your partner. Chew it and do it. Chew it and do it. BlueChew.com. Use the promo DELRAY. Free. It is free. Just pay $5 shipping for your first order. That's right. Blue Chew. Get your shiny boner. All right, let's get back to my man, Greg Howard. Love you guys.
So he uses it for the show.
With no chassis.
No chassis. It's just chassis just sitting up on a...
Yeah.
So he uses it, and then we were in Philly, and then the next gig is in Boston. So, of course, we have a couple of days off in between. And Ossie's like, man, I got to take this back to the shop and build a box for it. And Brad's like, no, you can't have it.
Yeah.
I got to keep it. And Ossie's like, they're like playing tug of war with it backstage.
Hilarious.
And he's like, man, dude, you got to let me. So he takes it back to his shop and makes a cabinet for it. But I don't think I had it for the first. We did like 2 Boston shows. I don't think I had it for the first show. But anyway, so he got it for the second show, and that was kind of the first Three Monkeys amp. It was really a Blockhead. But
now, are these are they point to point?
So that amp was definitely point to point.
Right.
It was turret board. So Brad ends up playing this amp on the road for a while, and then got to be like into that tour, I think, and something. We were all in Boston, and Ossie just happened to be there, and we went out to dinner, and I'd been contemplating starting a guitar company or an amp company or something, and So I started thinking maybe I could do an amp company. And so I talked to Fred Tacone about it at Divided by 13. He's like, oh, yeah, dude, totally. You should do one.
Yeah.
You know, I talked to Greg Germino, and he's like, oh, yeah. I mean, everybody's encouraging me. They're not like, oh, you're going to be my competition. They're just they're like, dude, yeah, do it, So then I call Ossie up and talk to him about it. And he's like, oh, man, that's a cool idea. He goes, would you want to start something with me? And I'm like, well, you've been building for like 10 or 15 years already. So why would I not? I was just going to be the beginner. I was going to have to learn everything.
Of course.
So we're at dinner it's me and Ossie and a couple of people and Brad. And so Ossie's like, hey, did you tell Brad about the amp company idea? And I said, oh, I forgot. I said, hey, we're going to do this. Me, Ossie and I are going to do this amp company. And the first thing out of Brad's mouth was, I want in on that.
Yeah.
So basically it was my idea, but he was all, he was jumping in with both feet. So we decided, let's all three do something. So that was 2007. By the time we talked about it, it was 2007. And, these guys are touring every year. We're touring like 6 to 8 months a year.
It's crazy.
So I told Brad, I was like, we were in South America. I told Brad, I go, dude, if we're going to do this amp company, I'm like, I can't tech for you anymore.
Oh, shit.
I'm like, I want to, but there's no way. I can't do both. I mean, so he's like, all right. He's like, why don't you quit? And then, and let's just do this amp thing. Cause he was all about it. So that's what I did. So I left in 2007 and I spent the rest of 2007, Ossie and I making prototypes. He moved down from New York down to Raleigh, North Carolina, where I am.
No shit, huh?
Yeah, because it was a lot cheaper.
Yeah.
And, he was getting kind of tired of the weather. He's originally from Yonkers. So he moves down. We spent about a year basically in the sunroom at my house, basically like prototyping these amps.
Just
so
sniffing solder.
Yeah, we just so we're listening to like Aerosmith live bootleg, live ZZ Top, this one live Humble Pie I've got that's from the Fillmore West.
Right.
Oh no, sorry, from the Winterland. From the Winterland. It's the Winterland. It was a King Biscuit Flower Hour show.
Man.
And dude, it's Clem Clemson instead of Frampton, who I actually like better than Frampton in Humble Pie.
Right.
And honestly, there's some of the greatest tones on that record of anything I've ever heard. So that made me like live Ted Nugent. So we were
Double
just like,
Gonzo.
yeah, we were like 70s shit,
Yeah.
And
that's an interesting tone too with Ted because
yeah.
he's going that big old Birdland hollow body through those high powered Fenders.
Super high powered Fenders.
Yeah, those things are just, and it's crazy clean.
Yeah.
Crazy clean, man. That is just nuts.
Yeah, but we really liked the way those records sounded, fully mastered and everything. So that's what we tried to make the amp sound like. We didn't want the amp to sound like whatever it sounded like in the room. We wanted it to sound like what it sounds like on the record, which is not easy to do. So we basically built in kind of touch sensitivity into these amps. And we basically, selfishly, the first amp was designed basically for me.
Yeah.
And it was completely something, like Ossie's a completely dyed-in-the-wool Marshall guy, even though he's been in just about every kind of amp you can imagine. And I'm a Fender guy, so I'm into like 6V6s.
Right.
So I was like, I want a 6V6 amp that sounds like, a Marshall that's what we ended up making this amp called the Orangutan that has a 6-position switch on it, and it sounds like everything from a Fender to a Marshall to a Hiwatt to a Vox to an Orange.
So it's kind of like having an amp, but in like a Rockman kind of, or these amp modeling that all the people are using. Like I just talked to Kirk Hammond about it.
Yeah.
But having an actual amplifier instead of doing it on, digitally.
Yeah. So what the voice switch on this amp does or did or does,
the tubes?
It changes the filtering and the tone stack.
Oh wow.
So literally you can hear it when you're playing it, and it's not foot switchable or anything, but you can hear it. You can just strum a chord and go click, 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 and you can hear like, oh, that sounds like an AC30, because it's got a little bit more high or a little bit more mid.
Yeah.
And it also changes the gain structure, so it gets progressively gainier as you turn it clockwise. But it's a non-master head, So it's not preamp gain, and so it's very dynamic. It's Brad and I and Ossie all were like dynamic guitar players. Like we use the volume on our guitar to get different tones.
Right.
You turn the volume down.
Well, that's how all the old school guys did it, because you didn't have techs behind there running your effects and stuff. So you had to be a volume and tone master. Yeah. So you roll the volume down, be a little cleaner for the verses, and then roll it up if you're gonna kick in a solo.
And Brad still does that. He still plays like that.
And Joe played that the whole time, because if you looked at that Les Paul that Slash gave him back, it's got the full...
Yeah, he does that all night long still to this day.
I've never seen a Les Paul top with actual... It's dug in a trench where his finger would roll that. Yeah. You know how many times you would have to do that to a piece of fucking wood with your fingers to make a trench there? I mean, dude, I can't even imagine how many times he did that in his life to make a trench. Because look at all those Les Pauls. We got the burst books, and you look through them. None of them have that.
No,
it's wild.
And Joe's thing too. He's the master at playing a Strat. With the single coil that makes especially on a big stage like ours, makes a lot of noise. And he's a master of playing something, and then if there's any place where he's not playing, he rolls the volume down on the Strat.
Wow.
So that it doesn't hum. Or P90, if he's playing something with P90s.
Right,
He does the same thing, and he's really good about it.
It was funny watching Brad tonight, because he's and I've said this with all the great players, Billy Gibbons or anybody, he's going back and forth from single coil to humbucker, and it sounds exactly the same. It just sounds like Brad. It sounds like this. It's funny, as I watched it tonight, it hit me that Slash took kind of Joe Perry's vibe and moves, made it himself, turned it into his own thing, but his vibe and moves, but his playing, and especially it really hit me tonight on Last Child. Yeah. I go, Slash he's Brad Whitford on the plane, but he's Joe Perry on the moves.
Look. Yeah,
it's funny, right?
And then that's totally true.
It's totally true.
And Slash would tell you that too.
Oh yeah.
In fact, Aerosmith guys did a gig at the Whiskey a few years ago, just a little online gig that was like a promo thing, and it kind of sprang out of nowhere. And Brad was on vacation in Hawaii, and he's like, I'm not coming back.
Shit.
He's like, I'm on vacation. So Slash came and did the gig, and he can play all the Brad stuff.
Oh, wow.
So he came and played all the Brad stuff.
Is that out there?
Yeah, it should be out there somewhere. It's probably on YouTube or something.
That. So when you're, because I'm a huge boutique amp guy. Of course, I get into it back in the day with Matchless.
Right.
I've had amp people on here, and I love amplifiers. They are just mind-boggling to me, all of them. Everything from a Tweed Super, high-powered, into the Tweed Deluxe, which is my favorite, and then an 18-watt Marshall. But I really got into when Mark Sampson came out with the Matchless, and that really knocked me out. And then I really got into Victoria's.
Oh, yeah.
The Double Deluxe was my favorite, because you basically had a little more headroom. You could turn it up without it breaking up quick. And then Fender jumped in and started doing their own hand-wired amps. And they were doing those crazy, weird cream ones. And Ron Wood was playing those, and I had one. It was the Vibra King.
Oh, yeah. That's Bruce Zinke designed those.
That's a great amp.
Yeah, the Tone Master and the Vibra King.
But the Divided by 13s, Jacob Dylan turned me on to him early on in 2002. 3, maybe 4, I don't know when it was, but I was going on the road with Jacob, the Wallflowers, and he got a Divided by 13 head. And then I went and saw Fred and got a purple combo.
Nice.
And it was just phenomenal. But the boutique amps are just amazing. So now, was he playing? Now, he was playing the Orangutan tonight?
Yeah, so tonight he was playing what we call the Orangutan Pro, which was an amp we made in 2008, right around the time that first Orangutan model was coming out. The regular Orangutan has 4 6V6s.
Yeah.
And custom made transformers that Ossie designed, and the Orangutan Pro that Brad's playing actually has some older iron in it. It actually might have a Tone Master like power transformer in it. It's got some big iron in it.
Fender Tone Master?
Yeah, but it has vintage Philips 6L6s in it, so just a pair.
Yeah.
So it's basically a 60-watt amp. So he was playing that, and then he was playing a Magnetone, which is the M80 Super 59, they call it. It's the anniversary model. And what they did is they took an amp they had, I think this is the third version of it. The first version had like tremolo and reverb on it, and they took all that off. And now the amp's basically a Marshall that has a gain stage that you can switch to. And Brad just uses it without the second gain stage engaged.
Is that 50 watt or 100?
It's I believe it's a 50.
Yeah.
I want to say it's a 50.
Beautiful
So
looking.
yeah. And so just those into a couple of Marshall 412s, and they're both always on.
Yeah.
Basically in stereo out of his pedal board.
So you guys start making these amps, and what do? Do you go to NAMM's show with them? Or
No, we never did NAMM. You know, NAMM is one of those things that's like, you know, for an East Coast guy, I mean, it's going to cost us $30,000 to go to NAMM, and then
so
it's like,
money.
The boutique amp business doesn't do that well. It's going to take me a while to get my $30,000 back. So we never really did that. We basically just started a dealer network. At one point, we had probably at the max, I think 2012 was maybe our biggest year. We had 40 dealers worldwide.
Yeah,
and a lot of them went to Australia. Had a really good dealer down there. A really good distributor down there. Had a really good distributor in Europe as well. And then just a couple of years ago, the market kind of fell out on the boutique amp
thing. Because
I
think a lot of people, what happened was everybody went to small amp.
Right.
Because the only people that could play bigger amps are about 10 bands in this world right now.
Yeah.
And everybody else is a bar band.
Yeah.
And no matter where you went, people would be like, hey, we got to turn this down.
Right.
And then you turn it down. They go, hey, we got to turn you down more.
Yeah.
And then you turn down. Pretty soon you're on one and you got no sound. So everybody kind of went basically to a small 18 watt or 15 watt combo amps.
Which is what we were producing those. In fact, that was our biggest seller, was the Sock Monkey, which is a little 15 to 18 watt. Actually, I think the original one was 12 watts, and then the second one was 18 watts. And that was our biggest seller. But yeah, the market just kind of went away, so our dealers kind of started going away too.
Yeah.
So then we just started selling direct. And we did that
website.
We just I have a really good website.
And were you guys making them handmade?
Yeah, they're all handmade. Everything was made
Point to point.
It's actually a hybrid. My partner Ossie is the amp guy. He is, I'm the cabinet guy. I built all the cabinets and designed all the cabinets. But so he designed basically a circuit board that looks like a Marshall point-to-point or a turret board.
Yeah,
but it just has through-hole eyelets.
Yeah.
So it's a little bit more robust, and we had them, they're like literally 1/8 of an inch thick.
Yeah.
And we had them made, and we had one power board, and then each amp model had a different board to be populated a certain way to make the amp, and we had 4, 5, 6 amp models at the time. And we had a 2,200 square foot shop. I had a 30 by 40 foot wood shop in the back.
Shit. So you just get up in the morning, go out back and start making amps.
Yeah. So we were doing that. We did that for 10 years. And so in 2016 or late 2015, I was building a pedal board for myself, which I never do. I never build anything for myself. So I'm building this pedal board for myself, and I always make my own DC cables out of my power supply. I always make my own DC cables. So I want them cut to length. And so I'm sitting there trying to solder these little tiny wires to these little tiny, plugs.
Yeah.
And I'm like, fuck. I'm like, somebody's got to make these like solderless. So I get, I got my laptop out and I'm like Googling it, and I'm like, no, nobody's doing it. And I've been using George L's, solderless 1/4-inch cables, for years, since the 80s. And they've been around since the mid 60s when Bill Lawrence basically invented them. So I was like, man, nobody's making this solderless DC, huh? So I went out to my shop. I got a shop at home. I go out to my shop. I cut a George L's cable and connector in half.
Yeah.
I cut a DC connector in half, and then I crudely soldered them together. And then I put the cable to it, each end, and it friggin' passed, DC current. So I was like, whoa.
Yeah.
So I took a picture of it and sent it across town to Ossie, and I'm like, he's like, what's that? And I go, it's a solderless DC connector for pedals.
Great.
And he's like, holy shit, that's a great idea.
Yeah.
So I'm like, I got to find somebody to manufacture these. So I found these guys in California, and I sent them all the specs, and I'm like, can you, figure out how to make this? And
did you get a patent on it first?
So, well, no, you can't get a patent until you actually produce something.
Right.
And patents take a few years.
Yeah, they do.
So I started having this guy. So basically, it took 6 months for this one manufacturer to tell me they couldn't figure it out.
Really?
So then I'm like, well, fuck. So I'm like, so they were like a cable manufacturer, like a DC plug manufacturer that made like molded, plastic cables. So then I'm like, all right, I got to find somebody that knows the solderless cables. So I found this manufacturer in the U.S. That did solderless stuff, but they, of course, nobody's ever seen a DC version. So I end up talking to this guy who's the head of this company, and he's like, well, I'm going to get my engineer to talk to you guys. It's my brother. He's my younger brother.
Yeah.
So I'm like, all right. So I start talking to the dude, and we both went to engineering school at North Carolina State at the same time.
Wow.
So I'm like, we start talking. He's a materials engineer, and I'm like, dude, I took a couple of materials classes. Did you have Professor so-and-so? And he's like, oh, yeah, I had that guy. And I'm like, damn, I think we might have been in the same class. So I'm like, it was really weird.
That's crazy shit, right?
So we basically, I drew up a concept. I'm like, this is what I want it to look like. I don't know anything about how your machines manufacture stuff, so you design it. So that's what they did. And so the dude designs it, sends me the prototype on a Thursday.
Yeah.
So I get it on Thursday, and then like Thursday night, I'm checking it out. Ossie and I are checking it out, and we're like, okay, I need to change these couple of things. So on Friday morning, I send this guy an email. Hey, we need to change this and change this and change this. And I don't hear anything back from him on Friday. I'm like, well, it's Friday, whatever. So weekend comes around, then Monday, I get a call from this manufacturer, from the girl. She's my sales rep at this, and she's like, "Oh, the engineer, he got killed in a car accident on Friday morning."
Whoa!
And I'm like, "What?"
Oh fuck!
So
that's insane.
Yeah. So like, we're like, "Oh, now," So then I have to talk to his brother, who's the head of the company, and I'm like, "Now what are we gonna do?"
Yeah.
And he's like, "Man," he goes, I don't have another engineer here. Could you guys do, so basically North Carolina State University is where I went and got an engineering degree and an economics degree. And there's also industrial design school there. So I basically found an industrial design, one of the professors has his own industrial design company. So I went to him and was like, hey, we need help. Here's the prototype, but I need you to draw up some CAD drawings and stuff so these guys can do this, manufacture the stuff. So
and then it happens.
So it all happened like in 2016, and that's when I have a really good patent attorney, and that's when I applied for my patent, or provisional patent.
Yeah.
I applied for my provisional patent in like February, March, April of 2016, and then by November of 2016, we had them in hand and we were selling them.
That's crazy.
And part of the thing is just and even today, almost 4 years later, it's like you just got to get people to realize that they exist.
Now, you're selling these, and is the amp company is it still live?
Yeah, so the amp company, we're basically just doing, and we've been doing this for a few years now, basically just doing like custom stuff,
right,
and one-off stuff.
Oh, that's cool.
And it's mostly because there's just so much stuff out there,
yeah,
that it's really
It's flooded.
Building up, us building up, 10 of this model just to have sitting around to wait for somebody to buy it it costs a lot of money. And we're selling a lot of cables. So
yeah, and it's like with amps, it's like it really just comes down to three things: Marshall, Fender, Vox.
Yeah.
Those are the sounds. And there is so many out there. It's crazy. Yeah. I have a vintage guitar player magazine, and it's called Boutique Shootout. It was the cover. I still have it. It's one of the few magazines I've kept on every move of my life and everything. Because it has all the amps at the time that were out. Right. I had the Rocket 88. You remember that?
Yeah, yeah.
Beautiful amp. But there's so many amps out there, and I get it. At first, you get excited and you're doing them and stuff, and then they're built and you're waiting for people to buy them.
Right.
Any big players besides Brad playing your stuff?
So, Brad, Steve Miller.
Steve Miller.
Elvis Costello has 3 that we built just for him.
Oh, that's cool.
And this was like 2008. He used them for quite a while. He used them the whole time he opened for Sting. He used them, and he's used them off and on with either one of our amps or Tweed Deluxe for a number of years. Steve Stevens has one in his studio, and he's used it on a lot of tracks.
Great dude.
So both guys in My Morning Jacket have them.
Oh yeah.
In fact, Jim James. It's been his main amp for over 10 years.
Wow.
And I actually went out in Guitar Tech for him. Their guy had a motorcycle accident, my buddy Chief, and he was okay, but he just hurt his shoulder and he couldn't tour. So I went out and did like 10 shows with him a couple of years ago.
There you are with your amp.
Yeah. And I was like, hey Jim, and I'm like Jim and I are kind of like we're kind of friends.
Yeah.
But I was like we're not like super close, and I kind of went to him and I was like, hey, I know you know who I am at least,
Yeah.
and you know that I do this for a living, so, and I've been doing it for 25 years, so, but we had a good time. Yeah, he's been playing it for quite a while, and then Carl, the other guitar player, picked one up and a different model and's been playing it. Who else? Oh man, I can't even remember. Jacob Peterson, who plays with Steve Miller.
Yeah.
He's got a couple of them. He's got a couple of custom things we've done. And Justin Charbonneau, who was in Soul Asylum for a while, a Minneapolis guy. My buddy Adam Allison, who's another Minneapolis guy, has got a few. So yeah, there's just plenty of dudes out there playing them.
How did you get into teching? Because I'll run down some of the people that you've worked for. Pretty amazing. Angus and Stevie Young, AC/DC.
Yeah, mostly Stevie.
Yeah. So, were you a guitar player years ago and eventually got into teching? How does this start for you?
So, after college, which I have an economics degree and never really worked in a day in my life, but I have an engineering degree as well. My dad was an engineer, so I grew up like, my dad's 80, almost 86. He still has a drafting table in his house and still draws stuff up. He makes furniture now, but he's designed all the houses we've lived in, and so I've been drawing since I was in like 4th or 5th grade.
I love that. I'm like an architecture freak.
Yeah, so me too. So I always have been. So if I'd had a decent guidance counselor in high school, I would have been an architect.
Right.
Or an industrial designer, or graphic designer. But anyway, so after college, I managed a record store with a roommate of mine, and then eventually ended up working at a music store, and we were like the big Boogie Dealer, Fender, Marshall, Hamer, Gibson, era. Like all the big stuff, and all the 80s, late 80s.
Triple rectifiers.
And, all that stuff.
Yeah,
and,
the Killer Hammers, the Cheap Trick era.
all the good stuff. Yeah. All the good. So I did that.
Did you have Deans?
I don't remember if we had Dean.
So
we were one of the first Paul Reed Smith dealers. Actually, we were. I think we were the. It was a 3-store chain. One in Raleigh and one in Norfolk. The one in Norfolk was the #1 Paul Reed Smith dealer for the first maybe 10 years that Paul was in business.
Wow.
So working in a music store, and I was a guitar player, had a band. And my band played the same circuit as Hootie and the Blowfish. So I've known all those guys since I was like 25.
So were you playing that kind of music? Like
we were playing like pop, like original stuff, like REM meets
Soul Asylum.
Soul Asylum meets Elvis Costello meets Living Colour. I mean, because we were kind of into the funk thing too. So
that's cool.
So we played the same circuit. You know, Hootie opened for my band where we were popular, and we opened for them where they were popular.
Right.
So I just knew a bunch of people in the business, and it's so weird. Like, I swear, like, I think it was like 1990. Like, everybody's band broke up in the same week.
Yeah.
It was like everybody, you know, in our rehearsal space, that we all had bands. We all played all these shows, and we were playing 2 or 3 nights a week. Everybody, like, band broke up. It was kind of hilarious. Well, those guys stayed together.
Yeah, yeah.
And then I had a couple of guys that were friends of mine. My one buddy, Scully Quinlan, went to work for, he originally worked for COC and then worked for Danzig. And then he was Pearl Jam's first guy.
Whoa.
So like 1992 in the van with Pearl Jam. And he's a Raleigh, North Carolina guy.
Wow.
So he ended up
on
being
the 10 record.
Yeah, so he ended up being Stone's guitar tech from like 92 until in the 2000s, like, but by the time they were in, you know, stadiums and stuff. So so he's my buddy, and I was like, man, you know, he was a great roadie. Unfortunately, he passed away a couple of years ago.
Oh, shit.
But he was a great roadie, one of the best. Had what I call gig sense, you know, like he's one of the guys, like, he knows, like, the microphone's getting ready to fall off the stand. Like, he's going to be out there before it even falls. Like, he's going to fix it. Like, but not a super technical guy. And I was the opposite. I was always into the minutia of the technical shit.
Gear nerd.
Like, totally nerd, you know. And so I was like, oh man, I bet I could do this. So I started doing it around town in Raleigh and working for bands. And a few of those bands ended up getting psych work for this band, Cry Love. I worked for Audley Freed and Robert Kearns. Yeah. And they got signed. And so then all of a sudden they're out on the road. So then I actually ended up.
Cry Love was like Bad Company, man.
Yeah, they were great. And
we opened for them in San Francisco at the Paradise.
And they were produced by the same guy, John Custer, that produced COC, Corrosion of Conformity. And he also produced this funk band called DAG.
I know
and
DAG.
I first started working for DAG.
With the little kid on the cover?
Yeah. So I first started working for DAG. Like, out on the road, so like going to Georgia and North Carolina, South Carolina. And
there's those bands out there like Dag, Screaming Cheetah Wheelies.
Yep.
You know that whole thing.
Dudes.
God Street Wine.
Yep.
There was this scene
Brother
of those
Kane,
bands.
all those guys.
Yeah, and you know, even Blind Melon. You know, this whole kind of sound that was going on around then. Other than the grunge.
Yeah. So I started going out like with those guys in like the mid '90s, and then I had a buddy, I lived in these apartments. It was like a quad. It was two apartments upstairs, 2 downstairs. And the guy across the hall from me was Cry Love's tour manager. But by this time, Cry Love had broken up, and he was the Squirrel Nut Zippers tour manager. And so it was when they were huge, and they were going everywhere. And
that's during that rockabilly
that whole deal.
Thing of like Interscope signing all that stuff. So you got this big Brian Setzer orchestra, Squirrel Nut Zippers. What was the other one?
It's Cherry Poppin' Daddies.
Yeah,
those
Cherry
guys.
Poppin' Daddies, and there was one other one, Royal Crown Review.
Yeah.
Yeah, it's funny, right?
Yeah. So my buddy's working for Zippers, and then like one day he just knocks on my door in '96, and he's like, "Hey man, do you want to go out on the road with King's X?"
Oh, rad!
And I'm like, "Are you serious?" Like one of my favorite bands. He's like, "Yeah. Here, talk to this dude." So he's like, he's got pre-cell phones. He's got this long ass phone cord. He pulls out. So I'm like talking to this guy, and he's the lighting director, production manager for. He's like, "Yeah." He goes, "I need a guy to come out and to tech guitars." He's like, $500 a week.
Whoa.
And I'm like, oh, righteous bucks,
Yeah.
So
righteous bucks.
So I was I'd been working in printing for like 10 years after the music store thing. So I ended up out, I fly down to Houston, do
rehearsals. Did they have a bus, King's X?
Yeah. So we went out on a 40-foot Eagle.
Whoa.
Not even a 45-foot Eagle, an old 40-foot Eagle.
Whoa.
And it was band, crew, and the opening act.
What?
Who was Galactic Cowboys.
Galactic Cowboys.
Great dudes.
Everybody on this one bus?
Yeah.
How many bunks? 15 bunks?
There was 12 bunks, and we had every one of them filled.
Whoa.
So
no junk bunk on that one.
No junk bunks. Like
Yeah.
total fucking slave ship,
Wow, the bus had to break down.
Yeah. No, I don't think it ever broke down. So, but our driver, this guy Milo, he was probably in his 80s.
Whoa, what?
And he was from Florida, and he used to own Florida Coach, which was one of the first
the biggest.
big bus companies. And I swear to God, he said he invented the bunk curtain.
Really?
Yeah. And like, who am I to argue with the dude?
Yeah.
He's 80-something years old.
The bunk curtain.
Yeah. So like this dude invented the bunk. Yeah, I know.
And these guys, they wanted to rub one out in the bunk. And they didn't want people walking by. Oh my God. The bunk curtain.
The bunk
dude.
curtain. So,
dude, that's nuts.
So that was my first tour. And then I went right from that. So I did a short tour with them. They got dropped the day we left for the tour.
Shit.
They got dropped from their label. And I was like,
King's X. They were on Atlantic, I think.
Yeah, they were on Atlantic.
Yeah, Ty was the guitar player.
Yeah, Ty was Ty. So I was Ty Tabor's tech. Just and I was a big fan, and to this day, still a big fan of those guys. And I still see them every once in a while, and try to keep in touch with them. And just the greatest bunch of guys.
How long were you out on that?
Maybe just a few months.
Yeah.
And then right after that, I jumped. The same production manager, lighting guy, was working for Manson. And it was on Antichrist.
Whoa,
before
big
Antichrist took off. No, this is like when they were still doing theaters.
Right.
Well, he calls me up, same thing, calls me up, hey, I got this opening act and their tech is shit. So I need you to come out here and replace this guy.
Yeah.
So I go out with this band, New York Loose. They were a little punk rock band on Hollywood Records with a chick singer.
Yeah.
That was my whole job, was just to watch this chick. Just basically watch this and make sure she didn't break anything. She played guitar and she was always kicking her pedals and just they were punk rock. He was doing crazy shit. So basically just watched her. And then towards the end of that tour, we played Janus Landing in St. Petersburg.
Yep.
And I walk in to load in at 4:00 to load in my opening band, and none of the fucking shit on stage left is set up for Manson.
Yeah.
So I'm like, that's weird. So I walk in the production office, and there's my buddy, and he's like, "Oh, nice to see you, jackass. Get out there and set that shit up." He goes, "They're the guitar tech, his appendix burst. He's in the hospital."
Shit.
So I went out there and set up fucking Zimzum's guitar rig and Pogo keyboard rig, and then I teched for both bands for the last week of the tour.
Oh shit! Double check?
Yeah. I got double pay. I got paid, so it was cool, but kind of scary. Just jumping into the Manson thing.
Yeah.
And then I just kept working. Like I ended up working for DAG again on a later tour. It's funny, like all the tours that you get promised. Like, oh man, dude, this is going to be like 2 years. Oh, yeah. Those all last about 2 weeks. And then it's all the ones like you fly out where they're like, hey man, can you fill in for a week? Yeah. Those last like 2 years.
Yeah.
I got called in 98 for Monster Magnet to fill in for their tour manager for like a week. That was it. So I get out there, and the production manager who had been there for a long time really wouldn't let me do anything but walk the band to the stage.
That's it.
But I'm like, he wanted to, he wouldn't let me do receipts. He wouldn't let me settle the show. He's like, I got it. So I'm
probably
like,
stealing.
Right, it probably was. So I'm like, whatever. So I just took care of the band, and then they kept bitching about like, well, we got to get rid of this guitar tech. This guy's he's fucking, he was a heroin addict, and he was just all messed up.
Oh God.
And so, the tour manager they hired, who was on another tour, was coming in, and they were like, yeah, we got to get rid of this guitar tech. And I was like, well, that's what I do. Yeah. I'm a guitar tech. I'm not really a tour manager.
Yeah.
And they're like, what? You're a guitar tech? So I just stayed.
Yeah.
And I was on that tour for like 2 years.
When Monster Magnet blew up?
Monster Magnet. So that was the big record, the Space Lord record.
Yeah, that's a great record.
So, and then we ended up, we opened for
2 years.
We opened for Rob Zombie. We opened for Manson. We opened for Metallica for 3 months in Europe.
Whoa, that's a great tour, Metallica.
So stadiums.
Yeah.
And then Metallica in the middle of that 3 months took like 2 or 3 weeks off. What do? We just kept going and doing like a solo show.
Of course.
So literally we just went straight through for 3 months.
Wow.
And then after that it was the guy that came in to do the tour managing on that was Brad Divins. who used to be in Rat Child America. He was the bass player singer for Rat Child America. That later became Souls of Zero.
Yep.
So I kind of knew him from my band had played with Souls of Zero. He's a great player, also great front of house, great tour manager. And after Monster Magnet, he was on Machine Head. So he calls me up. Hey, I need somebody to come out on Machine Head. So I go out on Machine Head.
Were you doing Rob or Phil?
I was doing Rob, and Phil was gone.
Oh, yeah.
And what was the kid's name? I can't remember. Aru Luster.
Oh, yeah, yeah.
Aru Luster was the other
yeah.
guitar player. So I worked for Rob and for Adam Deuce, the bass player.
Yeah.
Great dudes.
Yeah.
People are always like, man, those guys are fucking hard to get along with. They're hardcore and all this. I'm like, man, I do my gig. They don't have any trouble with me.
Yeah.
I don't have any trouble with them.
Yeah.
You know, same thing with Monster Magnet. I always heard, I've always worked for these guys that are supposedly difficult. And I'm like, well, if you do your gig right, they're not so difficult.
Yeah.
So,
if you're not just fucking, if you know what you're doing.
Yeah. So Brad and I did we did Monster Magnet, Machine Head, and then Linkin Park on their first tour.
Whoa.
All like right in a row.
Oh, shit. So you're never home.
I was never home there
Right.
for quite a while.
And then when did you land the Jimmy Page Black Crowes?
So that was after Linkin Park. By 2000, Oddly Freed from Cry of Love was in the Black Crowes. So he originally wanted me to go out with him on the Black Crowes, but I was working for his wife was in DAG.
Yeah.
His wife Jen was in DAG, and so I was working for her. So he was like, "Oh, I can't take you away from her," So, and I was basically doing 3 people. I was doing backline for bass, guitar, and keys on that, and tour managing.
One of those shit tours.
So and then I had like a monitor guy who did another 3 people, and then we had a front
Everybody's
house guy.
doing 4 jobs.
Yeah, we were all doing all this. Yeah,
That's the worst.
Great people though.
Yeah, but
great
still,
people,
it's
and
like,
in a
man.
van. So
God.
I mean, I paid my dues. I did all that shit. I did bus tour, van tour, bus tour, van tour.
Yeah.
And so then Audley's in 2000. Audley's in the Black Crowes, and he calls me up and he goes, "Hey, we're getting ready to go out with Jimmy Page.
Yeah.
Can you come out?" Because the DAG thing, they had gotten dropped, and that kind of crashed and burned. So I'm like, fuck yeah. So I went out on that.
Yeah. And so you're there.
Yeah.
And Jimmy, we talked about it today. Like, you wanted to get a picture of Jimmy with Jimmy.
Yeah.
And then he's fucking gone. It's over.
Yeah, it was over. And like we were supposed to go out for like 4 months.
I know.
And we did 3 weeks of touring. Well, we did like 3 weeks of rehearsal. So we did like 2 weeks of rehearsal with just the Crowes in New York City at Montana. And then we went to Chicago, which is where the first show was. And they rented out this theater, this rundown old theater in this Latino neighborhood.
Whoa.
And Jimmy showed up.
Yeah, Jimmy.
And dude, his guy shows up with an entire semi-truck full of gear.
Really?
And we're like, dude, what are you doing? He goes, I don't know what he wants, so I brought it all.
Whoa, a whole semi?
Yeah.
An 18-wheeler full of Jimmy Page gear. That's crazy, dude.
So it's all the guitars. It's
Are you looking at him like Jimmy's?
Yeah. So it's the number one, the number two Les Paul,
and the red B-bender
it's
one.
It's the red B-bender, or it's really pink.
Yeah.
The trans trim. It's the B-bender Les Paul that used to be the Dragon.
Yeah.
It's painted brown.
Yeah. No, you mean the Telly.
Telly.
Yeah, it's painted brown. That's not a walnut one, huh?
No, it was painted brown. It was the original Dragon, and he ended up he put the B-bender in it and painted it brown, and that was all the stuff he did.
I remember that one because he played that in the firm.
All the Jam Sandwich stuff too, all that Death Wish soundtrack stuff. That's all that guitar.
And then
when
the
he
Dan
wasn't playing
Electro.
guitar, and the Dan Electro, and the Lake Placid Blues Strat.
Oh, from fucking
and the double necks. Dude, the double necks.
Well, the Lake Placid Strat from In Through the Outdoor, you know?
Yeah. And I think he used that in the firm a little bit.
He did, yeah.
Too.
I saw the firm.
And it was on the arms shows. So dude,
and then a bunch of amps?
Bunch of amps. He was playing these
those weird amps. What
he was
were
playing
they?
these I call them the Russian Marshalls.
Yeah.
They were called Petersburg, and they were built in Russia for Jimmy. They were the JP 100.
What?
And it was just a point-to-point Marshall that some dude in Germany built for him, and Jimmy was like,
You mean in Russia?
I'm sorry, in Russia.
Yeah.
And Jimmy just loved him. So that's what he fucking played. That
Well, probably like, well, that's where the tubes are from.
Well, yeah. And so he had a couple of those and a couple of orange amps.
Yeah.
Like he was the first guy I saw to use the kind of EL84 orange amps that they were I think it's the stuff that became like the Rockaverb or whatever those things were. And then he had, I want to say he had a 50-watt Marshall just for the theremin.
Oh yeah, and then he's got a super lead too, right? Or like
Well, I think the Petersburgs
Right.
Replaced the super
Oh
leads.
yeah. So when he brings it all in and they set it all up.
No, he kind of Binky, his guy, kind of went to him and went, what do you want? And he said, it's Cornish pedal board, Pete Cornish pedal board.
Oh yeah.
Like all those guys have, Gilmore and Townsend and all those English guys had. So he had that, and then so we basically set up in this theater, and then we rehearsed with Jimmy, and it was really cool. He was super nice, and it was so funny. So oddly, like charted out all the guitar parts between the three guitar players. He had it all charted out, and then they would be playing, and Jimmy would stop, and he would have this look on his face, and he'd go to Audley and go, "How did I play that again?"
Yeah.
He said, "Audley, how did I play that again?"
Whoa.
And Audley would show him, and he'd go, "Right." And then sometimes he would stop him, and he'd be like, "No, I didn't play it like that. I played it like this." And he would show them.
Yeah.
So
this is incredible. I wish they filmed all that.
Yeah, it would have been really cool.
Jesus, man. I mean, it may get loud, that film.
Yeah.
I just love Jimmy is so fucking unbelievable. Everything about him, which is funny. Talking about gear because we're nerding out. I saw so much of Aerosmith's vintage gear today.
Yeah.
Those amps from the 70s that they used at Day in the Green and the big. What were those again? Music Mans?
They're Music Mans.
But they had their own logos.
Yeah,
put
so
on
their techs put their basically took the chassis out and made a whole new box for them and made these anodized front faceplates with the Aerosmith logo etched into them, and then had LEDs that would move with when they were playing them. So they're really cool, and it was that was the kind of stuff the band wanted to put together. This museum it's basically the same footprint as the stage. It's underneath the stage at our residency here in Vegas, and they just wanted to have a place where the fans could see, some of the memorabilia and some of the stuff. So there's like all these posters and gold records, but we basically pulled the stuff that we call the Aerosmithsonian.
Yeah.
We're like, so we pulled all this stuff out of the warehouse, and some of that stuff I hadn't seen in years.
Wow. Where's the warehouse? L.A. or Boston?
It's in the South Shore. It's off. It's not in Boston, but it's down on the South Shore, which is where all the guys were living at one time. Really, only Tom is the only one that lives in Massachusetts anymore, and he lives up in Newton, up by Boston College. So but just really cool to see all that old stuff. Some of the cabinets say Joe Perry Project on them, and
I saw that today.
Yeah.
When you start working for Brad, do you go to the warehouse one day and you're just kind of digging around? Like, does it say like, go down there and look at, and you go in there and you're like, oh, whoa, look at this old Marshall here.
Yeah.
Whoa, look at these. Because like today, you showed me Joe Perry's 60 Les Paul, and you said he didn't even remember he had this.
Yeah.
And I was like, what the fuck?
Yeah.
Can you imagine?
Because he has more than one.
Right.
And he did not. I had never seen this one.
Yeah.
But his guy said that he was like, oh, I don't remember if Joe had it at his house and didn't know where it was, or whether his guy knew where it was. I don't know the story, but it was one of those ones where he was like, he literally forgot that he had it. In Joe's defense, he's probably got 1,000 guitars.
1,000?
Yeah.
Holy shit.
He had 750 when we did an inventory in 2013, and
you said you did these books on it, right?
I did it. Yeah, I did.
And
I did
Joe
these,
had 3 books.
Yeah, I did put Joe's in 3 books because there was a maximum of 100 pages, double-sided per book. So like I couldn't get it. It wouldn't all fit in one book.
So what would you do? You take a picture of it? And
Yeah.
put it
So
in the book?
we do a picture, and then I have a database. So a picture, and then serial number, year if we know it, any notes we know about it, like this is something. Oh, this is a strap body with a telly neck that Joe put together, and it's a 77 body with a 60s neck or whatever it is. We try to keep as much of that stuff, and then where it is, because it could be at his house, it could be in the studio, it could be at the warehouse. They used to have off-site storage that wasn't even at the warehouse. It could be in the road vault, so we try to keep up with where stuff is, you know.
Yeah.
It constantly moves around.
That's wild.
Yeah.
So so the Jimmy Page tour kind of falls apart and everything, and then you start working for Brad, and then you take all this time off to work on the amps.
Yeah.
Once the amp stuff starts cooling off, is your first gig back AC/DC?
No, actually, it was kind of Aerosmith there for a while. So I started in 2002. They worked every year,
Yeah.
like 6-8 months, sometimes 10 months a year. But in 2005, they didn't work really. We worked, I think, some in 2005, and then so late in 2005, I got a call from Green Day, and they
Yeah.
were replacing somebody, and so I flew to Australia, and with no rehearsal, I did Australian MTV Awards with them playing Boulevard of Broken Dreams with no rehearsal.
And that's your gig straight out of working on amps, like coming back out of
But
retirement?
this was before I worked on the amp. So I did the American Idiot tour.
Yeah.
And then in 2006, again, Aerosmith wasn't doing a whole lot, so I went to work for John Oates. So I worked for Hall & Oates for a while, and then I came back to Aerosmith, and then 2007 is when I left. So 2007 I left. Didn't tour 2007. 2008 we launched the amps, and then the only thing I did in 2008 was Brad got invited to be on the Experience Hendrix tour,
Right.
Which is Eric Johnson,
That's
Steve
cool.
Vai,
Yeah.
Dweezil Zappa, Johnny Lang, Billy Cox from the band of Gypsies,
Billy
and
Cox, man.
and Mitch Mitchell was the drummer that year.
Whoa.
So I went out with Brad on that, and we took the amp that he used tonight on the Aerosmith stage. That was the amp he used for that. And then kept working on the amps most of 2009, and then Green Day called me again. Well, actually, let me back up. Sorry. I'll back up a little bit. I did some one-offs with Green Day and Darius Rucker with his country thing.
Oh, yeah. I like that country shit.
Yeah. So, and because I've known Darius, we've known
Yeah.
each other since we were 25. So
Yeah, the first one was great.
and then my buddy Scully, I was talking about earlier, had been working for Hootie and for Darius, and so I was out subbing for him. So I kind of got the kind of roadie bug again.
Yeah.
And then Aerosmith wasn't sure if they were gonna do anything in 2009, and so I was like, shit. So I got asked to come back to Green Day to work for Jason White, who's the second guitar player, and that's who I tech for in 2005. And man, I honestly, I got my wife together with my business partner. And the three of us, I was like, I don't know what to do. And they were like, we don't know what to tell you.
Yeah.
We're like, my wife, of course, is like, I'd rather you were home, but,
Yeah.
I know you need to work, because if you want to make $1 million in the amp business, start with $2 million.
Yeah.
It's just like, so
That's
so
good.
literally, you know what we did? We
Yeah.
flipped a coin.
Yeah?
We flipped a coin, and it was go out with Green Day.
Wow.
So that coin flip was 22 months out of my life.
Shit.
We toured for 22 months on the 21st Century Tour.
Now, how do you deal with that with your woman?
So my wife's great, very independent, and we had known each other. We started dating right after I got the Black Crowes Jimmy Page gig. We
Yeah.
started dating, but we had known each other for probably 10 years prior to that. We just had a lot of mutual friends. So she doesn't know me doing anything else.
Right.
And we don't have kids, but we have dogs, and she prefers it when I'm home and can walk the dogs and help her out. And,
Of course.
and do all
22 months.
But yeah, so that was like 22 months, and my partner Ossie kept everything going, and when we had 2-3 weeks off, I come home and it's no longer just hey, I'm gonna go sit on the couch and read a magazine and hang out, play video games. It's like, no, as soon as I get home the next day, if I'm not doing a honey-do list, I'm back in the shop working, building cabinets or building amps, whatever. So I did that, and then so I think I took 2011 off. And then 2012 came around, and Green Day was going back out, and they were like, hey, we're going out for 3 years this time.
3 years.
Instead of 2 years, we're going out for 3 years.
3 years.
So I look at my partner and I go, 3 years, and he goes, I can't do 3 years by myself.
Yeah.
I said, dude, I don't blame you.
Yeah.
I said, so I turned it down. I said, I can't do it. I said, I'll come out and do the promo gigs. I'll do whatever you need me to do. I said, I hope you find a guy. I'll train a guy.
Yeah.
Because they're all my bros. Good people. It was a great tour. I love working for those guys. They didn't need me, so I stayed home for a couple of years, and then 2013 came around, And the guy that was working for Brad was a guy that we had picked up from the Experience Hendrix tour. He didn't want to go to Japan.
Oh,
so
that's
because
weird.
of the Fukushima thing.
Oh.
So I was like, all right, I'll sub for you if you want. And he's like, really? You do that? You would just happen to be talking on the phone because we're friends. And I'm like, yeah. So I came back out in 2013. And after the end of that thing, they fired him.
Wow.
And then like kept me. And I was kind of like, dude, I didn't come out here to take your job.
Yeah,
It was fucked up.
Oh, fuck.
And it wasn't handled very well by the production.
Oh,
and
shit.
So it felt really bad.
Oh, no.
But he had been doing a lot of stuff for Joe Perry in L.A. because he's an L.A.-based guy.
Yeah.
So Joe's guy left to go do AC/DC. So he started working for Joe, and he still works for Joe today.
Oh, that was the guy I met today?
Yeah, it's the guy you met today, Marco.
Oh, shit. Yeah.
So he still works for Joe. So, yeah. So then I've been back with Aerosmith since 2013. And they weren't really doing much in 2016. So again, I got a call. Somebody got fired, and I went out and did Stevie Young on AC/DC.
Yeah, before we wrap this up, let's get into a little bit of, it was amazing what you told me. Malcolm's amps.
Yeah.
Malcolm's guitar.
Yep.
That's unbelievable, right? So Malcolm's spirit is on that stage, man.
Definitely. It's all the same stuff he used.
What were the Marshalls?
So
was he using Wizard for a while?
he did for a while. Not when I was out there, and I don't think he used them on Black Ice,
right?
Which was Malcolm's last tour. So Stevie came in after Black Ice, and he had subbed for Malcolm.
I saw that. Yeah,
was it Fly on the Wall era?
I think it's Who Made Who.
Oh, Who Made Who? Yeah, I think you're right. So. And he was in Starfighters, he's only a couple of years younger than Angus.
Yeah.
Even though he's their nephew, he's very close to was very close to Angus.
It's got the same bloodline.
Yeah, same bloodline. He's definitely He's definitely a young. And he grew up in Scotland, so he's complete Scot. And Malcolm taught him to play. Yeah. So it sounds like Malcolm. So basically, Malcolm's rig was. So he played Malcolm's number 2 guitar as his number 1.
Was that thing kind of, was that the red one?
No, it was originally red because it was a Jet Firebird.
Right.
But so it was stripped off, and then it had the 3 pickups.
Yeah.
Malcolm had cut out for the middle pickup.
Yeah.
And then he just took them out, and so just the bridge pickup, and then the bridge pickup just goes to the volume knob.
Is it kind of a piece of junk? Because those old Gretches are kind of hoopty.
Yeah. I didn't really think it was a piece of junk.
Right.
It had the Burns tailpiece on it, which he didn't use the vibrato part of it.
Right,
but
I know.
He took that off. But the extra string length makes that guitar sound like it sounds.
More slinky.
And then the big strings, it makes it more playable.
13s or 12s?
13 through 46, I think, or 56. I can't remember. I got it written down somewhere.
Yeah.
But they were big.
Wow.
You're not bending these. So it's that number 1, and then basically it went into a radial splitter, and then that split out to 3 different amps. A 66 white panel Plexi JTM 45 100 with KTs in it. So I had 2 of those. One went to an ISO box, one went to a 412, and then a super bass. 72 super bass went into another 4. Sorry, each one went into 2 412s.
Wow.
So Stevie was running 4 412s, and then the one in the ISO box.
What's the one in the ISO box? To just put it on 10?
Yeah, it's about the same. It's about the same. Well, it's pretty loud. That's the loudest stage I've ever been on.
What's it doing in the ISO box?
But it's just a better way for the front of house guy to be able to control it.
Gotcha.
Because it's mic'd up in this ISO. And the ISO boxes are underneath the stage. There's one for Angus, one for Stevie.
Yeah.
And then Angus was running 900-watt Marshalls.
9?
9.
All of them on?
All of them on.
What?
He had between 16 and 8 to 18 cabinets on at any time.
What?
So
That's absurd.
Yeah. So it's and
That's
Angus,
actually kind of like crazy.
Yeah. So like Angus's whole side, they were all on.
I told you I was
And then
standing
a
on
few of
stage.
them, and then
I had to move.
Yeah, and then a few of them. There's a few of them on my side of the stage with Stevie. So loudest stage I've ever been on. Angus doesn't wear in-ears. Everybody else was on ears.
Yeah.
And Angus doesn't wear in-ears, and neither does Joe Perry. So
Yeah.
they got to have a lot of wedges, and it's got to be loud.
God damn. Now, what was, where's Malcolm's number one with the family?
It was with him in Australia.
And this is before he passed.
Before he passed.
Right.
And then I'm not sure, it may have gotten buried with him.
Whoa, really?
I know Angus had it at the funeral.
Whoa.
He actually had it in the case at the funeral.
Did you go to the funeral?
I didn't.
Oh,
I didn't.
yeah.
I think that was actually working another tour.
What was Stevie's backup guitar?
So Stevie's backup guitar was a black Jet Firebird that Malcolm had given him that was left-handed.
Whoa. That's
That
cool.
He plays it righty.
So the knobs are
And
up top.
So the knobs are up top. Well, they're all moved.
Oh.
They're all moved. But the fret markers, which is kind of those have
Yeah,
those
the
kind of thumbnail
thumbnails,
markers.
yeah.
They're on the opposite side.
Whoa.
And so
hoopty.
so like yeah.
These guys
so-
are
yeah.
actual billionaires.
Yeah.
Actual billionaires. I want to make this clear to anybody. They never, ever, ever talk money. The AC/DC camp, the corporation, the brand
Yeah.
of AC/DC is $1 billion.
Oh yeah, easily.
And there they are with a hoopty
Yeah.
left-handed
Yeah.
upside down. I
Yeah.
love it.
But it was a cool guitar. It was a
That's
cool
great,
guitar, and of course, I'd never seen another like you never see like a left-handed version of those.
No,
and
no.
so I immediately took a picture of it and sent it to Rick Nielsen.
Yeah.
And I'm like, dude, check this out. And he's like, oh, I've seen one of them before. I've seen, of course you have.
Yeah, of course you have.
Jackass.
Fucking guy's seen everything. He's owned everything.
Yeah.
I wanted to ask you something about Brad's. Does he have any vintage 59 still?
Oh yeah.
Oh, yeah?
So he has a 60
Yeah?
burst.
Yeah.
So he and Joe in the, I want to say, Get a Grip era, so early 90s, they both bought bursts for 20 grand.
Wow.
And at that time, they thought they were getting ripped off.
Yeah,
They
yeah.
thought they were like, this is crazy money.
Yeah.
Do I really want to pay 20 grand for this?
Because in the 90s, I was talking to Paul Stanley.
Yeah.
He said they were going for about $5,500 to $7,500 bucks.
Yeah.
And he said when the guy brought the Stanley burst over, I think he said he wanted 10 or 15. And Paul was like, fuck, that's a lot of money, man. It's like double the money. But he did it anyway, Isn't that crazy?
Yeah. And then by the time, so Brad has this 60 burst, and he actually had it out on the road when I first started with him.
Wow.
And I was like, dude, I don't really want to have this out here.
Yeah.
So he had a Tom Murphy historic. Tom Murphy aged as well. So I just kind of A-B'd him, and I'm like, what's different about this real one versus this new one?
Yeah.
Early 2000s one. So I'm looking and I'm like, well, lightweight tailpiece for one. So I swapped it out for a lightweight tailpiece.
Right.
And then
The APR.
there was, and then this, there was a few guys doing before the boutique pickup movement really took off, but there was a couple of guys doing like PAFs, and I found this guy Tim White.
Yeah.
And the guy's literally like a rocket scientist down in Alabama, and so I contacted this guy, and I'm like, hey, I work for Brad Whitford. You think you can make me some pickups? And he's like, oh, absolutely. So he made us these pickups, these PAF pickups, and I put them in the historic, and then we A-B'd them with the real deal.
Yeah.
Me and Brad both sat there and we A-B'd them. And I'm like, what do you think? And he goes, oh, it's pretty fucking close.
Wow.
And I'm like, good. Take the real one home.
Yeah.
Because I don't want to be responsible. So that's what he did.
Wow.
So he's got that. He's got, and I'm sure when you talk to him, he can illuminate you more. He's got but he has a 59 Black Beauty.
Oh, yeah.
3 pickup.
Oh, yeah, cool.
As well.
Peter
So the
Frampton.
Peter Frampton style.
Yeah.
Even though Peter's was not a real one.
I know.
His was a 55.
Yeah.
With the P90s that was all converted. And I played that guitar.
Well, that one got
I've seen it.
stolen,
Yeah, it's the
and
one
then
that
went
got
down in
stolen.
the plane
Yep,
crash, and
yep,
they found it
yep.
burnt up.
Yep.
That's
and then
the
I
crazy...
saw it. I was at the Gibson Custom Shop with Brad when he was doing they were doing a custom classic.
The laser of it?
Yeah, they were doing the Brad Whitford Burt.
Oh, yeah.
They were taking his 60 and making it into the closet. What is it called again? The custom Collector's Choice. Collector's Choice, duh. Collector's Choice. So he was doing the Brad Whitford Collector's Choice. So I'm at the factory with him, and actually my partner, and we were in Nashville for an amp show. So it was me and Ossie and Brad. We were all together. And he was in a meeting, and we were kind of walking around the factory, and my buddy from Gibson comes in and goes, "Come here." I'm like, "What?" He goes, "Just come here."
Yeah.
And so he takes us in this conference room, and in the conference room is the Peter Frampton guitar, the Phoenix. It's laying there on this conference table.
Yeah.
And then next to it is the president of Gibson, Henry. It's his 57 gold top.
Whoa.
And then Brad's Real Burst.
Whoa.
And so we're sitting there looking at the Phoenix, and we're like, holy shit, that's the Phoenix. And then I kind of just, I turn my head like 5 degrees, and I'm like, holy shit, that's Peter Frampton. And he turns around and he's like, "Hey, Peter Frampton," shakes my hand. And so then we started talking to him about the guitar.
Yeah.
And it's really, it's a cool guitar, but really weird. It's really thin.
I didn't know
it got shaved down.
Shaved down, yeah.
Yep.
Because, remember in the, I guess, late 80s, they made a guitar for Nancy Wilson, and they came out with it called the Les Paul Light.
The Light, yeah, I remember those.
And it was just a Les Paul that was half the thickness.
Yep.
And those were rad. You could get them in pink, crazy blue, green.
Yep.
Those are fantastic. I talked to her about those, and that's a great guitar, man. Yeah, that Peter Frampton. I never knew that was a P90 guitar, because doesn't it have the diamond custom inlay on the...
It does.
Yeah.
It does. And if you... I'm pretty sure it was a 50... I'm pretty sure he's... Oh, you know what? Maybe his was a 52 gold top that got refinned. I can't remember. Damn it. I'm sure somebody smarter than me knows the Frampton thing. But it's just not a real 3 pickup Black Beauty.
Wow.
Maybe
it was a 2 pickup.
Yeah,
Black
maybe
Beauty.
it was. Maybe
and
it
then,
was.
Yeah, because it does have the diamond inlay. Because those came with the ebony fretboard and the diamond inlay on the headstock.
Yep. And they got all burned up in that plane
I
crash.
can't believe that.
Yeah, my buddy JD DeWorko was his tech back then, and told me all about, like, years before they found it.
Yeah,
he told me all about that crash and about how going down. They were kind of lucky they weren't on that plane. Yeah, because kind of because some of the crew guys would fly with the gear. Yeah, and it just the gear went down, and what they figured out was they hired some security guys to watch it because they had to come back the next day because it was still kind of smoldering. Yeah, and the security guys are the ones that stole the shit.
God, that's wow. Well, dude, I can't thank you enough for doing the show. Oh, sure, by the way, you're wearing a Roll Club shirt. Did you hear about them from me? The boots, or how'd you hear about it? Possibly my Instagram. Possibly. I can't remember if I know I listened to Brian's podcast with you. Yeah. But I've just been following him, and Brad and I are both like into selfish jeans and boots. I saw Brad today. Yeah. He's like the double RL store. Yeah. Come to life, Yeah. You look like my dad. Yeah. I was like, here comes Dad. He's got the killer jeans, boots, everything on. Yeah, but we all got it. We kind of all got into that like 5-6 years ago. So you got Brian making you some boots? Yeah. So I got Brian making me some boots. They're the lace ups, but they're not the lace to toe? Not the lace to toe ones. Oh, the underdogs. Underdogs. That's it. Yeah. I couldn't freaking remember. You see the Del Rays, the ones I designed? No. Oh, yeah, check them out. I'll have to check them out. And then these are the chukkas I wear. Oh, nice. I wear these everywhere. This is the second set of sole I've had these 5 years, or maybe 4 years. Yeah. Second set of sole on it. Look at that, man. I've got weird feet. I actually have a really nice pair of Thorogoods. Oh, yeah. But Red Wings don't fit me very well. Red Wings do not fit me. Even though I have a pair, I've got a pair of Mocks. I love them, but they don't fit me. They don't really fit me, and I actually... I took them and showed them to Brian. That was part of the reason his boots are not cheap. No. But I was like, you know what? This guy's going to measure my foot. Yeah. So it's not going to get any better. Yeah. It's not going to be any closer to what I want. This boot was his. He made it for him. Nice. And I put it on and it fit me perfect. I go, I got to have this one. He's like, okay. I'll just make another one. I've been wearing this one ever since.
The funny thing is Brad and I are the same size. So I'm always like, he's like, should I get these pair of boots? I'm like, sure, you should get them. You should get them so I can wear them.
Yeah, that's so great. And then you got some 316 pants on.
Yep.
Great. You went over to Self Edge.
Yep.
You're just a fucking, you're just a Del Rey podcast.
Yep. And then I got these.
That's cool. Lee
Ryder's shirt.
Yeah, what is that?
So this is I bought as much of the Lee 101 shit as I could get my hands on, which is the European collection.
Oh, cool.
They can't really find them in the States, but when we were touring over there, and this jean shirts all selvage with chain stitching and it fits me perfect, like Euro size shit and Japanese
Same
shit.
with me.
Because I'm not a very big dude.
Yeah,
the Japanese. I love going to Japan. Everything fits me.
Same with me. I was short. So I'm over there and I'm like, oh, pants. I don't have to. I go in. I walk out with the pants. No hemming.
Yeah, no hemming. That's
I was like, yeah, fuck, dude. My pants are 27 length.
Wow.
Well, I used to do 30.
Yeah.
And then I'd see myself in photos. It'd be all bunched up. Then I went to 29, bunched up. Then I went to 28. And finally this year I go, look, man, I'm fucking 27 length.
Right.
And now they look great.
Nice.
I like them a little short so you see the boot.
Yeah, of course.
Hipster style, man. I like to be a hipster. And you're a motorcycle guy too, huh?
Yeah, Ducati.
Yeah.
Ducati Scrambler.
Ducati's so great. Yeah. I've had so many Ducatis, dude.
Me too. This is my fourth one.
I had the fucking Diavel.
Nice.
Two different
Brad had
ones.
a Diavel.
Yeah. Oh, Brad rides?
Yep.
Whoa.
Sure.
Whoa.
He don't think he has his Diavel anymore. He had a Monster and then he got a Diavel.
Yeah.
And then he's got a Dyna Lowrider.
Oh, sick.
I think that's what he kept.
Yeah.
And that's my favorite Harley.
Yeah.
I like the pegs in the center.
Yeah,
I don't like highway pegs.
I like mids only.
Yeah, me too.
I don't ride no fucking forward bullshit.
Me too.
Mids, I want to be able to stand up when something's on the highway.
Yeah, I'm not riding around in a Barca Lounger.
Yeah, fuck that. All right, thanks for doing the podcast, dude. That was great. And I cannot thank you enough for that amazing day today. It was just so worth it. It started out such a shit day for me. I got a pipe broken at my goddamn house.
Oh, fuck that.
And, the landlord's a fucking slumlord. And then I'm driving here. It's 100-mile-an-hour winds. I'm thinking I'm not going to get here. These 18-wheelers are blown over.
That's crazy.
And then I get here, and my whole life just changes as soon as you start showing me those guitars, those amps, and everything, man. And hearing some old school Aerosmith, opening up with Let the Music Do the Talking.
Yep.
And then into fucking Ragdoll, into fucking Last Child, man. Dun, 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 and Joey Kramer back on the drums tonight. All right, thank you, buddy.
Cool, thank you.
All right. Oh, wait, quick website for the cables and shit.
Oh, yeah. So 3monkeyssolderless.com or 3monkeysamps.com.
Instagram for it?
3monkeyssolderless, at 3monkeysolderless. Twitter's at 3monkeysamps.
Badass. And then Aerosmith is in Vegas for this rest of the month, and then Europe tour with Rival Sons.
Yep. We're back here in May as well.
Oh, yeah, May.
So
yeah,
May into June.
Yeah.
And then we're going to Europe and doing festivals and some one-off stuff with Rival Sons, which is great. Can't wait.
I want to come back out again.
Hell yeah.
See a couple more of these before it's out of here. It was just so great, All right, guys, thanks for tuning in to another episode of Let There Be Talk. Don't forget to subscribe to the YouTube channel and leave a review on iTunes, and it really helps. And subscribe to the iTunes channel. And all the bonus episodes are on patreon.com/Dean Del Rey. Remember, keep the candles lit. Go listen to some Aerosmith today.